The Chicago Bears' Thanksgiving Day loss to the Detroit Lions put their head coach Matt Eberflus in a difficult position.
It seemed like they might be able to come back and win, but a coaching decision at the end of the game changed things.
This loss puts the Bears at risk of not making the playoffs.
A lot of people are talking about Eberflus's decision not to use a timeout in the last few seconds of the game. The Bears were losing by 3 points with more than 30 seconds left. Quarterback Caleb Williams was sacked, and the clock kept running.
So the Lions won.
Yes, and there was a lot of criticism of the coach's decision.
This is not the first controversial decision Eberflus has made this season, is it?
It's not. A few weeks ago, he fired the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron.
So Eberflus is facing pressure from a few different directions. This is his third year as head coach, and the Bears have been losing more and more games. How have people reacted to this Thanksgiving Day loss?
The reactions have been pretty strong. A lot of people think this loss might mean things will change with the team. People like Emmanuel Acho and Thomas Cassell, who are analysts, were very critical of Eberflus's coaching.
What did they say?
Acho said it was one of the worst examples of clock management he'd ever seen. Cassell even questioned if Eberflus was capable of coaching in the NFL.
How about people connected to the Bears? How did they react?
Former players like Patrick Manley and Cameron Worrell said they were disappointed. They felt that Eberflus let the whole organization down.
So the criticism is coming from everywhere. It's more than just fans and analysts. Even former NFL players like Matt Ryan, who worked with Eberflus, have spoken out against his decisions.
It means a lot when people within the league are criticizing him that harshly.
It looks like firing the offensive coordinator didn't take any pressure off Eberflus. Now, after this Thanksgiving Day loss, do you think his job as coach is in danger?
More people are calling for him to be fired, especially since he has already been the head coach for 3 years.
This leads to the question of what is next for Matt Eberflus as head coach of the Chicago Bears?
That's a big question. To understand the situation completely, we need to look at a few different things.
So maybe we can start by looking at how much this loss hurts the Bears' chances this season.
It makes it more likely they won't make the playoffs.
And why is that?
Well, because of their record now and the games they have left to play, they're going to have a hard time getting into the playoffs. Their record within their division and how they compare to other teams in the league is important to remember, too.
It seems like this loss has started a conversation across the country about accountability in professional sports.
It has. Eberflus's mistake with the timeout has people wondering about whether he will stay as coach and what's going to happen with the Bears in general. It shows how much pressure coaches are under every week and how much everyone is watching them. The decisions they make can have big effects on the team, the players, and even the whole franchise.
In what ways is coaching in the NFL different from coaching in other professional sports leagues?
There's just not a lot of room for error in the NFL. Every game is really important. It tests the leadership and decision-making ability of the coaches. Everyone's always judging them, not just by how the team performs, but by how they deal with pressure and make good choices when things are really intense.
You mentioned that people are wondering about what the Bears will do next. What does this mean for the team as a whole?
It makes people wonder how they decide whether a coach is doing a good job and if they're willing to make tough decisions when they need to. What happens now will probably set an example for how they'll handle these kinds of problems in the future. They're at a point where they need to think carefully about their choices and make a decision that's good for their long-term goals.
What are some of the things the Bears need to think about when they make this decision?
They need to think about Eberflus's entire record as a coach. They need to look at how the team has done with him as the leader. They need to think about anything that might have made things difficult for the team. They also have to think about who might be able to replace Eberflus and if it's possible to change coaches in the middle of the season.
Let's think about the fans for a minute. Chicago Bears fans are known for being really passionate and vocal. How has this loss and all the attention on Eberflus affected them?
Bears fans care a lot about their team and they expect a lot from their coaches. The way they reacted to the loss on Thanksgiving shows how emotional it can be to be a fan.
And how has social media added to the fans' reaction?
Now fans can go online and say what they think and talk to other fans about their teams. They can express their frustrations, guess about what might change, and connect with other fans who feel the same way.
So it sounds like Eberflus's job depends on lots of different things, not just this one loss. How do you think the Bears will weigh all of those factors?
They have to look at his whole time as a coach, not just this one game. They have to see if he's good at leading the team, developing players, and creating a culture where they can win. And they have to think about how changing coaches could affect the team's morale and how well they play. There are no easy answers here.
The Bears are definitely in a tough spot. This loss on Thanksgiving has just made their problems worse and put the team under a lot of pressure.
The next thing they do will be really important for their future. It will be interesting to see how they handle this and what they decide to do in the coming weeks and months.
Let's move on to some of the bigger issues that this situation brings up. It seems like this situation with the Bears highlights something bigger in pro sports.
I think it shows how much pressure and scrutiny N.F.L. coaches are under.
Is that pressure as bad in other sports?
In the N.F.L., it's all about the results. They expect a lot, and the pressure to win is huge. Coaches are judged all the time on how well their team does, and whether they keep their job often depends on how many games they win and lose.
But it's not just about winning and losing.
No, it's also about the choices they make when they're under pressure. One decision, like the one Eberflus made on Thanksgiving, can affect everything. It can affect how the players feel about themselves, how confident the fans are, and how the whole franchise is seen by everyone.
Eberflus's decision has definitely put a spotlight on how important it is to manage timeouts well in football.
It's really important. It takes strategic thinking, quick decision-making, and an understanding of the game situation. Coaches need to be able to see what's coming next and figure out what's risky and what will pay off. Then they have to make clear decisions that give their team the best chance to win.
What can happen if a coach doesn't manage timeouts well?
It can cost them the game. They might miss chances, waste possessions, and lose momentum. Like with the Bears, Eberflus not calling a timeout ended up being why they lost.
When these things happen, we hear about how it affects the coach and the team, but what about the fans?
Fans put a lot of emotion into their teams. They go through the ups and downs with the players and coaches. When a team loses, especially because of a bad decision by the coach, it can be really hard on the fans.
They put so much time and energy into supporting their team.
They do. This situation with the Bears also shows how the media can affect what people think.
How so?
The media makes the scrutiny that coaches face even worse. They analyze, comment, and criticize, and that can really influence how the public sees things. With Eberflus, the media has mostly been negative, talking about his timeout mistake and saying he's not a good leader.
We don't know for sure what will happen with Matt Eberflus or the Chicago Bears, but this whole thing has made people think about what it's like to coach in the NFL, the pressures coaches deal with, and how their decisions affect the players, the fans, and the entire franchise.
See you in the next video. Goodbye.